Yo guys, welcome back, and today we have another week of box office, so let's get into it. Up first we have & Juliet. Last week 98% and 1,328,000. This week 97% and 935K. So a pretty solid week for & Juliet. The Louis Armstrong musical is closing, I think, in a couple of weeks. And that is doing very poor. 66% last week, 466K. This week, 71% and 464K. Cabaret at the Kit Kat Club did better, 91% last week and 95% this week, 993K to 1,063,245. Death Becomes Her had a pretty solid week as well, even though it fell by 61,000 from 99.78 and 1,323,147 to this week's 99.39 and 1,261,688. Gypsy 99% last week and 1,690,204 to this week's 96.86 and 1,564,611. So another fantastic week. Hadestown is right on the verge of not doing great, but it's doing fine. With 98% last week and 734K to this week's 99% and 706K. Hamilton 95% last week and 1,655,079 to this week's 95.22 and 1,532,751. Obviously, for any musical, it's a fantastic week, but you're starting to see Hamilton soften its numbers considerably. And while it has had softened numbers like 1,500,000 in the past, it hasn't kind of held that consistently. Still isn't in any danger. It's not going to close. It's just interesting. Hell's Kitchen, 96% to 98%. And 1,090,930 to 1,077,434. So again, much softer numbers, but it's still doing very good. Maybe Happy Ending, last week 99.10, this week 96.23, and 894K last week to this week's 851K for a 43K drop. Again, Maybe Happy Ending is become one of the most, in my opinion, successful new musicals in the past decade, honestly. 800K for any medium-sized show is fantastic, so grosses-wise, it is doing absolutely where it needs to. But what's more impressive is how it's consistently held onto 800K for like a month plus now, and that when it does drop, it's 43,000, 50,000. It's not gone above 50,000 for a drop yet in the new year. So again, I'm not going to go on ad nauseum. I've made countless videos on Maybe Happy Ending, but I'm, as a fan of the show, so happy about it, and it truly is a remarkable business revelation, I'd say. Moulin Rouge, it's had its worst year yet, and it definitely has fallen under 1 million last year, but this year it's been doing it consistently. You know, last year it was here and there, but it was still kind of not in a great space. But yeah, 94% last week and 985K. This week, 92% and 970K. Again, the show could close, you know, in January of 26. I know Boy George is coming back, but the stunt casting, it dries out eventually, guys, and I think we're seeing that with this show. Redwood, which played to 7 performances and 89% last week, and 98% this week, from 682K to 856K, which is a very fantastic number for an original musical and for Idina Menzel, and this certainly is probably calming investors, boosting her ego, because these are the kind of numbers I was expecting last week, although I know there was discounts, Idina was out, but based on mixed word of mouth, I could see this, you know, I mean, inevitably, if Idina leaves, if Idina Menzel wasn't in this show, would anyone even care? You know? So I think that the content of the musical might not be enough to surpass the star quality that it has at the moment. Sunset Boulevard, 96% last week and 1,431,483 to this week's 91% and 1,306,183. So it definitely is facing its lowest weakest, not weakest, but like softest numbers. But for any new musical, these are fantastic numbers. And it is a limited engagement. Great Gatsby is doing very good, even with Jeremy and Eva out. Last week, 93%. This week, 90%. And 1,110,481 last week. And 1,030,677. So again, much more softer numbers than what it was doing October to December, but that's to be expected. And I bet you when the spring comes and the summer comes, it's gonna go right back to where it was in November and December. And then we have The Outsiders, which sold out, and last week 1,338,182, and this week 1,234,295. Another fantastic week for The Outsiders, despite it having a very significant drop of 103K. So let me know your thoughts, like, sub, comment, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.